Hello to all, welcome to my channel. In this I'll be going to teach the subject that is biotechnology. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Nidhi and I'm an assistant professor of biotechnology. In this channel I'm going to be covering the topics of biotechnology that include cell biology, molecular biology, immunology, as well as microbiology. So typically in this video I am going to start with the cell biology. So today we will be covering the topic cell biology, that is cell and its cell theory. So in this we will going to study that what actually cell is, who discovered it, and what is its cell theory. So the points that we will be covering are organization of cell, discovery of cell, cell theory, and lastly the difference between the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cell. But in this one we will be going to study only the basic points. In detail I'll be going to upload another video that will contain the separately prokaryotic and eukaryotic portion. So what is organization of cells? As we all know, what is cell? It is a basic fundamental unit of life, or we can say that it is the smallest fundamental unit of life, right? So there is a hierarchy that follow in every area. If we talk about physics or chemistry or biology, so there is a hierarchy that is following. So here firstly some similar type of cell form tissue, then some similar type of tissue form organs, then organ system, and then a whole organism. So again the hierarchy will be like cell, tissue, organ, organ system, and organism. So what is cell? Cell is the smallest fundamental unit of life that perform the basic living organism functions that includes both metabolism, that consists of anabolism as well as catabolism. Like cell carry out a function that is known as the photosynthesis, that is the formation of glucose, as well as it carry many enzymes that perform the function of anabolism, that is the breakdown of the larger complex to smaller one. Then the tissue, the group of cell working together and performing a specific job combine to form a tissue. Like all the workers working in a bangle factory, they are all performing in making bangles, so that is again a tissue. Now the organ, the group of tissue doing the same job, that is organ. Now the organ system, the group of organs performing the same job, but we will not say the same job. It's like that kidney is there, heart is there, so they are the organs that combine to form an organism. So organism can be unicellular and they can be multicellular. It depends upon the composition of them. So now we will study about cell, discovery of cell. So who discovered it, how it is discovered, what the need for its discovery. So we'll be covering these 3 points: who, what, and how. So basically the cell is discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. He was a scientist. He was basically working on a microscope to visualize the smaller things. That microscope usually contain a magnifying glass, a simple magnifying glass like microscope. So he accidentally discovered dead cells. So what he do? So it is basically a serendipity. What serendipity is a discovery by chance or discovery by mistake. That is serendipity. So he observed the dead cells from the bark, or we can say the cork. So what he actually did, as cork is hard in nature, he soaked that cork in water for 24 hours. Then on the next day, he cut a thin slice. He cut a thin slice of cork and then placed it under the microscope. So what he basically observed, he observed the compartment-like structures, a small boxes that are gathered together. So it will be like this. I am showing you the diagram, just a basic one. So these are the compartments that I am showing you. So he observed something like this. So he said that every organism is consist of small compartment-like structures, but he only observed the dead cells. The live cells are observed by another scientist that I'll be showing you in the next slide. So there's a scientist named Anton von Leeuwenhoek. He was the first one to observe the live cells in 1673. What he did, he looked for the smaller creature in pond. There he observed smaller creatures like bacteria, plant cells, animal cells, and during his discovery, he also discovered that yeast that we use normally in baking and other things, that is alive. That means that will consist of a living cell. He also saw that the blood cells differ between different organisms. Not all organisms have the similar type of blood cells. In 1838, there was a scientist known as Schilden. He was actually botanist. He studied about the plant cell. He was the first one to observe the plant cells. And in 1839, Schwann, he was a zoologist. He studied about the animal cell. Both of them combined their theory, and then there we have the cell theory. The cell theory was discovered by Schilden and Schwann. Now, what cell theory says? In 1839, the cell theory came in. It says that all the organisms are composed of one or more type of cells. He also stated that cell is the structural and functional unit of life. That means the basic things that happens in our body is actually starting from cell, then it going further on. Then in 1858, another scientist named Robert Virchow, he added his theory to the cell theory. That's why then it was known as the modern cell theory. What he stated that every cell arises from the pre-existing cells. Omni cellula celli, or also he said that cells are present everywhere. So all the cells arise from the pre-existing cells. So this basically is cell theory. Now the basic composition of cell. Components means we can say that what are the basic components that are present in all unicellular as well as the multicellular cells. So it should contain cell membrane. I am showing you the basic diagram, not the detailed one, not the exact one. So it contains outer covering, that is cell membrane, that differentiate from the outer environment and inner environment. That means it acts as a protective barrier. It also contains DNA, because as we know the DNA is the hereditary unit. So if the information present in one cell is passing on to the another cell, that is because of DNA. All cells contain organelles. Organelles perform various functions, but it depends upon whether the cell is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Then it contains a matrix, a gel-lined matrix that is known as cytoplasm, in which the different organelles, our DNA and other things are embedded. So this is the basic composition. So on the basis of this structural combination, the cell are basically divided into two categories. That is the prokaryotic, that is a simpler one, and the eukaryotic. prokaryotic cells and then eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells basically contains bacteria that are the simpler organisms, whereas the eukaryotic cells contain multicellular organisms as well as unicellular organisms. In multicellular organisms, there comes the plant cells that are the complex in nature, then animal cells and some other cells. And if we talk about the basic difference, we can say that the prokaryotic cells are simpler one. They do not contain nucleus, that means their nuclei do not have a well defined membrane. They lack well developed organelles. The DNA is circular and linear. That means they contain only one DNA. Whereas eukaryotic cells, they are more complex than the prokaryotic one. They contain the well defined organelles. They have their DNA packed inside a double layer membrane, organelle known as nucleus, and their DNA is linear and they have more than one DNA. So this is the basic one. In this one I am going to teach you just this, but in the next video we will be focusing more on the prokaryotic cells. Thank you for watching. If you like this, then please subscribe and support.